Joel Edgerton might be Australia's best actor. Like, flat out. He's great in Warrior. He's amazing in The Gift if you've seen it. Super disturbing. Highly recommend. And he's a phenom in the 2022 Netflix film The Stranger. Like, some people will say, oh, this isn't a horror. This is a drama. To that I say, you're wrong. Flat out. This is one of the darkest and most disturbing movies I have ever seen. I try not to watch trailers going into movies because I don't want them to like flavor my review. So when I went into this knowing nothing, it's probably part of the reason it hit me for 6. This movie is really hard to talk about without spoilers because it's based on a famous true life event, especially in Australia. So to talk about this movie, I'm just going to touch on the information that's provided to you in the trailer, so I don't, give any major spoilers. This film basically just follows 2 men. It's just 2 people almost the whole time. Henry Teague, played by Sean Harris, and Mark Frame, played by Joel Edgerton. Henry's a worn-out, down in his labourer, and Mark is basically the sergeant at arms for a low-level criminal organisation in WA. Henry assists an associate of Mark, so Mark extends an offer to Henry for some low-level crim work. However, the mini spoiler is, ready, Mark is actually a police officer who is undercover in the hopes of befriending Henry and getting him to divulge a huge information about a huge case that is attached to Henry's past. Now, while watching this, as soon as Mark started talking details of the case, I quickly put together that this film is based on the police undercover operation surrounding the Daniel Morecambe case. At this point, if you're an Aussie, you should pretty much know if you're going to watch this movie or not. I've seen a number of overseas reviews talking about this film, saying that it's boring because the stakes seem fairly low. And that, for those that are unaware, the Daniel Morecambe case is one of the largest, most covered criminal cases in the entirety of Australia. I was 10 years old when it happened. I lived about an hour away from where his abduction occurred, and it completely shattered the entire nation. There are a number of laws that have been made directly related to this case. It is a national tragedy. So, if you want to find out more about the case before you decide to watch this film, just prepare yourself because it is heartbreaking. I could not think of a more horrific ordeal to go through than what Daniel's family went through. I don't know how the Morecambe family feel about this movie, but I can say as an Australian and especially as a Queenslander, I have a connection to the subject matter in this film that I cannot account for. I cannot separate the bias for that. So it may have a deeper effect on me than it would with someone who had no prior knowledge of the case or someone who was in a different country. But just letting you know, going into that, this case was central to growing up. Back to the review. True crime in any facet is tricky to do because if you do it poorly, it seems like it's gross, it's exploitive. But if it's done well, it's most people's knowledge base for that certain event. Thankfully, in this case, Tom Wright made a masterpiece. It's a bleak and it's disturbing and it's tense, but it's a bleak, disturbing, tense masterpiece. How Joel Edgerton and Sean Harris did not win Oscars for this, considering they're the only 2 people on screen for 98% of the runtime, is fucking criminal. Sean Harris is so good in this, I didn't know it was him till I went into the cast after the film. I thought, who is this Australian actor? He's fucking brilliant. How did I miss him? He's not Australian. He's not even Australian. He's British. So, congrats, Sean Harris, on your Australian accent. It convinced me. Also, super sorry you've been criminally overlooked. You're fucking great. If anyone's seen Possum, it's another deeply dark, disturbing film that Sean is in. So, maybe someone should maybe check on Sean, maybe get him a bit of therapy, because his IMDb is fucking bleak. It is so dark and disturbing. This film too, it reeks of despair. The cinematography is stunning, but like the same way The Outback is. There's no like vibrant, bright colors. It's all like shades of red, brown. Everything's dirty. Everything's grimy, which suits the tone of the movie perfectly. The whole premise of this film basically boils down to, how do you befriend a monster and stay mentally intact? The closest situation I think I can think of for this is, if you've ever been at the pub, you've had one too many pints, you stayed way too long, and some sun-beaten tradie, it's almost always a fucking bricklayer or a concreter, and they see you drinking and they come over and sort of join your group, and everything's going fine for like most of the night, and then out of nowhere they say the most like heinous statement or confession, and then you have to spend the entire night basically gently extracting yourself from the midst of this fucking psycho. This whole film is that feeling bottled and then drip fed out to you for 2 hours. So that'll tell you if you want to watch this movie or not. Every interaction Joel Edgerton's character has with Henry, you can see just the anxiety and the stress just ratchet up. It gives you a little peek of his private life. Imagine having to come home and be a father after you've spent like fucking 10 hours in the car with one of the most horrific and disturbing human beings on the planet. That'll take a toll. Another great thing about this movie, it's the most accurate portrayal of Aussie crims I've ever seen. Like, it's up there with Snowtown, it's up there with Animal Kingdom, the movie Animal Kingdom, not the pretty boy surfer Animal Kingdom, which I fucking love, but Team Craig, by the way, woo! But the movie, the dark, disturbing movie Animal Kingdom. This movie definitely takes some fortitude to watch, because it just pulls you through awkward conversation after awkward conversation as Joel Edgerton's character Mark tries to balance befriending Henry with like also keeping him at a distance. God, this movie gave me so much anxiety. And it's lived in my head every day since I've watched it. If you have no interest in watching this movie, and this is too much for you, just YouTube the Stranger Dance scene. That will give you a fraction of the uncomfortability that this film has. It just thrusts uncomfortability upon you for 2 hours. The problem with doing any subject matter like this is, at the end of the movie, it doesn't matter which way the film goes. It's going to be fucking miserable. Like, about 3/4 in, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter who wins. It's fucked. The movie's fucked. The case is fucked. There's no good ending. There is no possible way you can be, like, happy about the ending of this film. So, if you are going to watch this, go in there with that firmly planted in your mind before you go in. Yes, also, I am aware, Mark looks like he could be my vision of Christmas future if I decided to do nothing but consume Bishop's Best and, like, fucking Desert Sun for breakfast. So, yes, extra points for Mark, looking like an older, dishevelled me. I recommend this film to people who love Aussie crime films. Love stuff like Mindhunter. If you love the interview scenes in Mindhunter where they're trying to get info out of like serial killers, this is a whole movie about that. I also recommend watching this if you want to be fucking furious like I am that Sean Harris and Joel Edgerton do not get the respect they deserve, especially in terms of like film awards. I don't recommend watching this if you hate true crime. If you hate conversational horror, it's too slow. I get it. This is not for you. If you think any entertainment based around the Morecambe case is still too fresh for you to process, huge trigger warning on this film. Do not go into this film. I get it. It's dark. It's really dark. I'm not sure I would have watched this film if I'd known the subject matter going in. I, however, am glad I watched this film. I really do think it's an Australian masterpiece. it's not a film I'd probably watch more than once. Same as Snowtown for me. But it is absolutely a showcase of solid Australian filmmaking. So if you've liked anything I've said, or you want to see like the premium Australian filmmaking, this movie has that. If you do give it a watch, fucking let me know what you thought. I need someone to trauma bond with, because this is fucked. And hopefully I'll see you next week for another review. Peace.